Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the creator of this revolutionary podcast. I am so excited about today's podcast. We're going to be talking about communication ping pong and the truth about email. Replace that with Slack or Teams or what have you. Communication ping pong and what to do about it and how to transform it. We've all been there. In fact, we ventured to guess as recent as today or this hour. Communication ping pong usually occurs with voicemails, emails, chats, Slack, Teams, all these other different texting, instant services that we have right now. And it typically starts with a comment, an opinion, an observation that becomes misunderstood, misinterpreted by the recipient that I talked about on last week's podcast. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to that episode in regards to chaos and confusion and lack of clarity. And that is really where it starts. There's a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of either content or tonality or intentionality. And then the recipient responds with a comment, an opinion, an observation, and then so on and so forth, let alone the tonality, when people start throwing in some of these other terms, like I said, or I did not, and then all the weapons come out. That's a whole nother topic. Then now that leads into chaos and drama and employee problems and performance problems and attitude problems and all that. So the ping pong is just, it's endless. Number one, it's not helpful and it's not productive. And it's not uncommon for participants to ping and pong 5, 10 or more times before they realize they haven't got a clue what started the quote unquote communication in the first place. And so now then you got 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 other subject matters in there as well. So, the Urban Dictionary has a very, very nice definition of email ping pong, which is the active email correspondence between two people getting way out of hand or control. The active email ping pong usually starts quite innocently, but we all know, it doesn't end that way. It starts off with, dear blah, 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 I notice. And then the person responds that will say something like, as you should be aware, which basically, how dare you tell me what I should do? Or like I said, when people start emails like that, the most passive aggressive weapon out there, or I'm perfectly aware of, it's just amazing how it goes on and on. Or, the employees they're delegating back up. They're coming to you with problems, not proposed solutions. Dear boss, you are scheduled tentatively out on Friday. Are you going to be here? And, you're like, I'm not sure, what do I do about this appointment without having standards around calendaring? And then, well, let me know. And then when somebody says that, like, whose list is it on for follow-up? I have a client that needs to reschedule an appointment that day. It just goes on and on and on. And then it comes to a place of silence. And then there's thundering silence because people begin to stop responding or they're ignoring the email in fear of having to yet another meeting about creating a system that no one will ever use, or that, we don't even remember what the core issue was at hand, or in this ping pong, especially if you have more than 2 people on the thread, nobody has a proposed solution. So we don't even have that in their core values or in the fabric of it. So, number one is the communication ping pong, but not only that, the breakdown in communication and direction, going back to last week's episode about eliminating confusion, eliminating lack of clarity, and then people taking action. So, maybe your assistant returns a call to the $12 million prospective client and informs them that the boss is out on Friday and she'll have to call them later to reschedule when she has a better idea of his or her schedule. And then the boss assumes the assistant has created the suggested system or following the suggested system that's there until the next time he's interrupted with a question about rescheduling and is unaware that the $12 million potential client just slid out the door. So you want to, and I gave some tips in last week's podcast, but you really want to stop, drop, and roll with all this. When you see communication ping pong, first of all, you want to train people on how to eliminate that. And I'm gonna get into some real quick tips, but then you want to create standards around email communication and how to use that. Same thing goes for voicemail ping pong. Seriously, we've all been there one too many times where your boss decides that in the 45-minute commute to work, it's an ideal time to hold a one-sided quote-unquote meeting with the assistant or someone. And we all know that meeting where you get the phone call, leaves a voicemail. It starts with, just driving to work and thought I would try to catch up with you. And the message proceeds to be a giant vomit fest of information, emotions, and or direction. That might start with call Joe Baker to confirm our 8 a.m. for tomorrow. And 3 minutes later, it goes into how we really need to structure the marketing plan and talk about our planning because our competitors are doing X, Y, and Z. Just heard them on the radio and they're distorting our given the wrong information. And so you frantically hit the number one button to replay the message like 16 times to make sure you captured everything as an assistant, whoever's on the receiving end of this voicemail or voice dictation, or if, voice texting, however you're delivering the information. And, then you're beautifully crafting all that, trying to get clarity out of it. And then you come to the meeting and, you have questions, you have lack of clarity, and the boss who left the message, who thought they were being helpful to do a thought download to give all the information, assumed that you did it all. And or some of them might have been future ideas and didn't think that you were going to do it, but it wasn't clear. Am I doing this now or are you just doing a brain dump? So communication ping pong is the biggest emotional time and energy and money sucker with very little ROI, just shy of, 0.00%. So you want to stop the game. What's the solution? And there are two. One is reactive, what to do when you find yourself in a game of ping pong. And the second is proactive, to avoid most instances of it happening in the first place and in the future. So number one is to be able to be reactive, what to do when you find yourself in the vicious cycle of it. Number one is just stop it. You can pick up the phone and be able to, and make this as a standard in your practice. If somebody gives you an email, they're not clear on the direction, then stop it and pick up the phone to get direction right then and there versus finding yourself receiving. When you find yourself receiving or sending more than 2 communications on a relatively simple matter, yes or no question, stop emailing, texting, slacking, whatever it might be, and literally pick up the phone and call the other person so you can resolve that matter in 60 seconds. Save a lot of aggravation on both ends. Save a lot of drama, because when you get into more than 2 communications, that is when people get sloppy and reckless in their communication and use words like I said, or all the defensiveness comes out. So you really want to stop it and come up with a rule for that. And even if it's just picking up the phone and saying, listen, we can't resolve this. Can this go on the agenda for next week's meeting? Can this go on the agenda for tomorrow's daily huddle? Whatever it might be, and getting clarity on it and say, we're not going to solve this right now. It's between you and I. We need the attorney's input. We need the marketing company's input. I'm not clear on, we both have a different direction on this. The attorney talked to you at the water cooler. They sent me an email. Let's just say this, or let me schedule a 15-minute Huddle for tomorrow looks like the attorney's available at 2. Does that work for you? All 3 of us will hop on a Zoom and just touch this once and handle it. Do you see how simple that is? If you have those standards within your practice and a way to touch it once and to eliminate, because we all know the drama alone that comes out of it and the lack of clarity, and then it becomes to a place where it just starts to get people upset, annoyed, and then nobody does anything with it because now emotions are involved and a breakdown in communication. So easy to miscommunicate tone by email. So picking up the phone, calling the person, clarifying what you're trying to say, and stop hiding out behind email and voicemails to communicate. Everybody will be better off for it. Number 2 is going to be the second, like I said, is proactive, to avoid the most instances of this happening in the first place. This is where you are getting the daily dish, so to speak, the items accomplished today, where you're just getting the headlines that is presented in a very positive tone, where you give all the facts without all the emotion, and you leave all the entire story you have wrapped in it around the day, and you just give the daily dish, just the headlines. So the goal of it is to avoid the 2 a.m. panic attacks that you and your boss have when you can't remember if you completed, how we ended the email, how we ended the Slack message, what have you. You might be having a Slack message with a paralegal on one certain matter, and then one side of the matter, another with the client services around scheduling, follow-up, what have you. So you want to put these standards in practice, or, doing a daily dish where you get the headlines of items accomplished today, where I'm jammed up or where I'm stuck. Other people might do a daily huddle. Since the pandemic, many people have loved this, where they're doing either an end-of-day daily huddle or beginning of the day, treating it like a locker room huddle before you go on the Super Bowl playing field. So it's an opportunity for you to clarify, verify. Susie, got your email about this Smith case. I know that you replied and said that, no, we need to reach out to the financial advisor before contacting the client. The attorney said, no, don't contact. I already talked to the financial advisor. This is what you should do with the client. I have you both here right now. What's my course of action? And then in that moment, you can handle it. And the attorney will be like, yeah, I did talk to the financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. But like, there's no notes in the CRM. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to copy the financial advisor just to make sure we're all on the same page? You want me to call the financial advisor first just to confirm your conversation? Just make sure there's nothing you miss. And then we'll go to the client. Boom, right there. So anytime you want to batch all the communication ping pong that you get, and as much as possible get clarity, either at the end of the day, if you're doing this in the written format where you're getting the headlines, everybody universally give it the same name, the daily dish, or title it items accomplished today, or end of day debrief. Get really clear on what the subject line's going to be in the email, and then what you want. Boom, 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 boom. And here's what I accomplished. Hit my top priorities, where I'm stuck or jammed up and need clarity. You can do both. A lot of firms will do that. And if you need a tool, please email me and reach out, and I'd be happy to give this to you. And then you can do the email as well. It's not micromanaging. It's a way to just keep everybody operating at peak performance. It's a way to stop having the attorney, the boss, the entrepreneur, waking up in a panic of, where did we drop the ball? Did my assistant confirm that big client had the proper, documents and preparation for the meeting? Did anyone print and revise the handout for my workshop in the morning? I made changes. Can't remember if I sent it to Susie or Timmy or whomever. And the employee stops waking up in a panic. Did I change a boss's flight? Or did I hang up after, remember being on hold for 45 minutes? Did I tell my boss's breakfast meeting was rescheduled? He's going to show up at 7 a.m. and the, advisor asked to move it to 8, whatever it might be. A daily dish email and note from the team would look like: number one, confirm big client meeting tomorrow and email directions, all set for 7 a.m. Number two, received and revised a handout for the workshop tomorrow. It's printed. It's in the box with everything else. I'll be there to support you at the hotel. See you at 7 a.m. I'll have breakfast and coffee for you. We go live at 7:30. Collected 2 checks today totaling $5,500. Number four, received a referral from financial advisor. You had lunch with that last week. The CRM's updated. And calendar, appointments calendar, everything you need. And you have the note sheet on your desk. Number five, scheduled 2 prospective client meetings for you next week. Both of them came from Facebook ads. Should be great. This is not only a safety net for you and for your boss and for the team, but an amazing confidence booster when you end your day on such a positive note of accomplishment. Not to mention the ultimate agreement to eliminating communication ping pong. No more emails. Did you call Joe? No more 30-minute wandering voicemails. No more, defense mechanism going on between you and other employees. A daily dish is just for you all, whether you do a daily huddle on the phone, on the Zoom. A lot of people love that right now with the pandemic, because it's creating unity, it's creating connection, it's giving you an opportunity, especially if you're working virtually, to really feel that team-centric approach, hearing what other people are up to, seeing where you could step in, where you could help them, where you might be able to save them time. The goal of it, whether a daily dish written in an email and or if it's a huddle, it should be a conversation that fits on a sticky note. If it doesn't, you're making it a project. It should have that quick reminder, State of the Union, if you will. And then when you open an email at the start of the day, and you can jot down what you've done and literally write it on a sticky note throughout the day and send a short email before you leave, or showing up at your daily huddle before you leave or at the start of your day. So you can tell your entrepreneur that, the goal is for them not to wake up at 2 a.m. And you can all really have each other's back. Eliminate all the back and forth, desired justifications, feeling of being unappreciated, feelings of micromanaged, feeling of not being trusted. It creates a total opposite atmosphere of being empowered, of being united, of being all on the same page. It's not about a report, just a running State of the Union, if you will. And it shouldn't be a project. You can open it up and really keep clear that somebody sends you an email. You're not clear. One person has one opinion. The other person has the other opinion. Copy, paste it, throw it in your Word document, bring it to the day, end of the day, beginning of the day debrief. And just say, I need clarity. Susie thinks this, Bobby thinks that. What's the direction? Where do we want to go? The boss doesn't need to know that you went to the bathroom. They don't need that you went to lunch, that you were fixing the copy machine or got stuck up front. They do need to know the major areas where you've made progress and it's handled the most important things that they've handed off to you, or where you need clarification. Can this wait until we can have a more deeper meeting on this? Or do we need to have an SOS meeting right now to solve this? Where does it lie on the importance and priority level? Again, this has nothing to do with trust. This has nothing to do with micromanagement. It is not a report of everything you did, just a check-in. Your top got us that you knocked out of the park, and the email and Slack and different channel communications that you see going back and forth more than twice, that we weren't able to touch it once and be able to handle it. Because the sign of the times and the instant access of information still does not excuse our duty to be responsible for the way we make drive-by suggestions with no clear requests and make requests with no clear direction. Bottom line is communicate in an empowering, helpful way and stop hiding out behind technology. We all know the definition of email is basically everybody else's brain dumps and everybody else's agenda running it. So as much as you can rein that in and show up responsibly and then communicate in an empowering way, you will see your drama decrease. You will see the employee breakdowns absolutely evaporate. And then you will start running your business from a place of empowerment and leadership by reining in the communication ping pong. So if you need a tool, if you need help with this, shoot me an email, molly@hiringandempowering.com. I will be happy to help in any way. But our goal is that you really understand the truth about the communication, ping pong, email, text, Slack, whatever it might be. And now you have a path and plan for transforming it. Let us know how you make out.